And we are live on a beautiful Saturday night for the Michigan-Purdue Big Ten Championship Pregame Show. We are live with, of course, myself, Adham Beydoun, Flannel, Sam in the building. What's up, Flannel? How are you, buddy?
What's up? Isn't it crazy how on college football, sort of the championship Saturday, with what happened last night and what happened this afternoon, basically everything that happened basically means that for maximum chaos. It's unbelievable.
Well, you know what it also means? Michigan are likely 99.999% in, even with the loss. But I have to go around the room. Booner, good morning. Psych. Good afternoon. Psych. Good evening, brother. How are you, Mr. Michigan man?
I'm doing good. You tricked me. I actually thought it was the morning for a second. It's dark out. I thought we were in here at like 5 a.m. or something for the morning show.
Oh, goodness me. It's a great day. A lot going on in college football world. I mean, my goodness, Utah beating USC. I wish I would say I was surprised. Now, the margin of victory, very surprising. But this is a Utah team that beat them earlier in the year by 1 point. But the Caleb Williams injury really is the X factor there. Him healthy, I think they win that game. But beyond the point, earlier today, TCU losing in overtime, had the ball at the 1 yard line, failed to convert. I mean, it's been quite the championship Friday and Saturday so far. And you see on the screen, Georgia absolutely killing LSU 35-10 at the moment. So that game all but wraps up their fate. And then, of course, why we're here. Michigan, Purdue. Purdue, the Big Ten West divisional leaders, doesn't mean much.
No.
Then you have the undefeated 12-0 Michigan, who for the first time in program history will have an opportunity to win their 13th game. Whew. Quite the feat. It's been an exceptional year for Michigan, but I want to start with both of you, Mr. Michigan men. Let's start with this. Okay? Touchdown LSU, by the way. My goodness, we might have a game on our hands. Here's where I want to start with you two. Likely, Mike Morris, Donovan Edwards. I think we can expect them both to play. That's a non-factor. I guess what I want to start with is, what do you want to see from Michigan tonight that will assure you, regardless of who they draw, whether it's TCU or Ohio State, and we'll get to that a little later, but I want to start with Michigan first. Regardless of who they draw, what do you want to see tonight where, in the back of your mind, you go to bed at night saying, this is the Michigan team I knew it was. Whoever it is, it is. We'll find out Monday, and you'll go from there. I'll start with you.
I mean, Michigan is pretty much better at all phases than Purdue. I expect a dominating performance. I expect them to be able to run the ball effectively. I expect J.J. McCarthy to make some plays with his arm and with his legs. What would give me concern is if Purdue managed to, make some plays in the passing game, because they do have a quarterback who is streaky, but at times good. They have a good wide receiver, a good tight end, a good offensive head coach in Jeff Brom. So I would just say a decisive victory, no injuries, no letting the Purdue passing game go off, and I'm pretty much good. As long as they don't give me any moments of sort of cause for pause where I'm sweating it out. Do I think that's going to happen? Yeah. I don't think I should be too worried today.
Booner, I'll go to you. Your thoughts?
I'm there with Sam. For something that's going to make me lay my head down tonight and be very confident for the next 28, 30 days going to the college football playoffs, is I talked to Sam about it before, is we've really only seen Donovan Edwards at that RB1 spot versus Ohio State. We haven't seen him his whole career but last Saturday as that running back one spot. I want to see him again today dominate like he did on Saturday, because I want to be able to go into the next 3 weeks heading up to whoever we play with the mindset that Donovan Edwards can take over Blake Corum's spot, and we do know he's he could be better. He's an athlete.
He's definitely a better prospect. I would say that for certain. So
I just want to make sure, hey, this is the real deal. He can make this offense just as good as it was to go win a national championship.
I'll point this out.
That's where I'm at with it.
I'll point this out for both of you. Second half against Illinois, ugly with no Blake Corum.
Yep.
First 3 quarters, no Blake Corum. There was no rushing attack. No, those final 2 carries, he housed them. I mean, that was special and everything. But let's bring things back into reality. This is not a team that has run the ball the same way they have with Blake Corum, now with Donovan Edwards. Now, will Purdue be the game where they get everything back on track? They run the ball. Everything's great. I believe his prop is over 121.5 or 124.5 for today. So we'll see if he can run for 100-plus yards. He probably will. But, again, Donovan Edwards, can he be the horseback? That was a question we asked before the season with Blake Corum. You saw it with Hassan Haskins last year. Corum answered the bell. can Edwards now? And if he can't, are you too confident, not only in Michigan's pass offense, but mainly Jim Harbaugh and his staff to open it up? Because, we can say they opened it up against Ohio State. Again, I know you two are Michigan men, but let's be real here. You beat them on a few plays. I don't expect that to happen every week. You're going to have to throw the ball 5-6 times on a drive, complete 12, 13, 14-yard passes, and work your way downfield. You aren't going to get the busted coverage, the Cornelius Johnson, make a guy miss on a zero blitz and house it. Maybe you do, but I'm trying to find repeatable ways to succeed with this pass offense, which I haven't seen outside of Ohio State. Flannel?
And that's the thing. They obviously, the passing game showed some big signs that they can at least hit those down the field plays. Obviously, Ohio State's coverage did Michigan a ton of favors. But how about that throw to Colston Loveland? That was a dot. That wasn't any sort of like busted coverage or anything. That was a great route. That was a great throw. That throw that J.J. McCarthy made to Cornelius Johnson. He's not always going to be able to shake one defender and go to the house, but that is the type of throw that he's going to have to hit J.J. McCarthy sometimes on like a 3rd and 7, a 3rd and 8, and 3rd and 9 off his back foot with pressure in his face. I think that they're more confident in the passing game. But they're obviously going to have to run the ball, and missing Blake Corum, I don't think that's nothing, if that makes sense.
So you're not, I guess where I'm going with this for both of you is, that was quite the ass-kicking they delivered to Ohio State. Sure. That was so impressive. I think it's the most impressive win of the entire college football season. Having said that, I've only gotten one game of it.
Yep.
Right? And I'm not trying to be the Mr. Skeptical or Mr. Debbie Downer, but this is what I campaigned for from J.J. McCarthy prior to the season.
Yeah.
This is what I was campaigning for and what I thought he could deliver, and he did against Ohio State. But now can you continue to do it? Because I'm watching Georgia right now. Jalen Carter, that defensive front, you are not going to have your way like you did against Ohio State. Ohio State are mentally and physically weak.
Yeah.
Georgia isn't. And right now I think the field is Georgia, Michigan, and everybody else.
Yeah.
I think Michigan beat TCU. I think they beat Ohio State again. I have no worries. What they did against Ohio State in the Horseshoe was so impressive. But can I get more Ronnie Bell? Can I get more Cornelius Johnson outside of these, again, big plays? They're great. They're game-changing. But when are you going to have a sustainable offense that's repeatable? That's really my question.
Yeah.
Booner, I'll go to you.
And we've talked about it, I feel like all season, every single Saturday we've sat up here and talked is we want Harbaugh to open up the playbook for JJ. That was why we put JJ in the position he's in, is to be able to get the ball to guys like Cornelius Johnson and Ronnie Bell. I am very, very interested to see if that's something they go to today and build off of Ohio State, because we all know Harbaugh's game, what he's been and the way he's coached his whole career, right? Is just he wants to just pound the ball, and that's what his team is with Blake Corum, Hassan Haskins last year. If he can't do that with the guy like Donovan Edwards, you have to be able to open it up. And like you said, Adam, Georgia, you have to beat them in the air as well. Like that defensive line they have is unbelievable. So to me, the difference from last year to this year is we have to be able to have that pass game. And I think we do have it. I think last week was to show that we can do that, or Michigan can do that. I just want to see it today versus Purdue, like you said, Adam. We've seen it game.
I want the confirmation that what I saw against the Buckeyes was legit. Because I'll be honest, I thought they would lose that game.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah.
And I was totally dead wrong.
But you did bet them. Michigan.
Yeah, morning I changed my mind, but I don't count that. The whole week I was doubting them.
100%.
And look, I'm sorry. I saw what happened in Illinois in the second half. That concerned me. And they proved me wrong. I think what I'm looking for they don't have to prove anything to me. I just want that, back of mind confirmation that not only are you the second best team in the country, but you can open it up when you have to. And I think Purdue is a great matchup for you.
Yeah, and I think it's the same thing, too, at least in my eyes with Donovan Edwards, is we've only seen him one game, like I said before, at that RB1 spot. We've seen what he can do behind Blake Corum. Usually, typically, when a RB1 steps in, like a Blake Corum this year, you have all offseason. You have spring ball to develop them and get into the offense. For Donovan Edwards, he's getting into that number one spot within a week.
Yep.
So that's why I want to see back-to-back games.
He's the future.
He is.
And so is J.J. McCarthy.
But usually you have a offseason to build that within his offense, right?
Well, this is a great offensive line, and I do think they aren't going to miss a beat.
Right.
I'm confident in it. Flannel, I guess what I want to move on to now with Michigan is what's the style today? What is it? Is it Ohio State? I don't think that's repeatable. I think you're going to have to drop back 25 times, and you're probably going to run the ball 30 times. That would be my split. It would be 30-25. You're going to see a lot of Donovan Edwards. You're going to see a lot of J.J. McCarthy on the ground. Yep. And you're going to see an offense that you haven't seen all season, not because they didn't have it in their back pocket, but because they didn't need to because of their offensive line, their defense, and Blake Corum.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a mixture of what we've seen most of the season, sprinkled in with a little bit of last week. Because, let's face it, Purdue is not as good of a team as Ohio State, at least on paper. I think Michigan can kind of overwhelm them with talent and physicality. And, of course, Michigan's offensive line, that's a non-negotiable. Those are dudes. That is arguably the best offensive line in the country. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. I think that Donovan Edwards is going to have a huge day. But I also think, going back to last week, that kind of woke the Michigan coaching staff up and the players up a little bit, that they have a passing game in their arsenal that they hadn't really been using. And maybe they won't need it against Purdue, but they're going to have to practice it against Purdue. They're going to have to get some reps in. Because if you play a team like Georgia, for example, the one team that I think is decisively right now better than Michigan, you're going to need to be able to get them in a variety of different ways. You're not going to just ground and pound them. So I think Jim Harbaugh is kind of going to go to his roots and sort of pound the ball as much as he can, because he will be able to against Purdue, but he's got to open it up a little bit. And I think he knows that. I think the offensive coordinators know that. And I think
we've talked about this all season.
Yes.
And again, I think Jim Harbaugh right now, top 4 coach in college football, undeniable. He's been exceptional the last 24 months. Again, I will not question the way he's coaching because they're winning.
Yep.
And I'm not going to sit here and say, open up the playbook. No. I think what we now understand with Michigan is that their foundational core is running the football. That does not mean, though, and you saw it against Ohio State, that they can't throw the ball, that they can't dial up big plays. And that, to me, is reassuring that this is a different Michigan team, that this is a team that can win a college football playoff game, dare I say, go to a national championship game. Ooh. So, optimistic for the future, but we've seen USC now and TCU go down.
Yep.
Can't take these games lightly. LSU's about to score and make it an 11-point game. They're driving.
Yep.
So this is championship Saturday, but I want to take a break. USC lost, TCU lost. I'll start with you guys. I have quite the opinion on this, so I want to hear you two out first. Flannel, I'll go to you. What should the top 4 be pending that Georgia and Michigan win? Let's assume this. And even if Georgia and Michigan lose, which I don't think will happen, I think they still get in regardless. But let's play the scenario Georgia wins, Michigan wins. Who are the top 4?
Well, before I start, wouldn't this be a great year for the BCS if you could just have Georgia and Michigan play for the title? Because 3, 4, 5, and 6, it's all just kind of a cluster F at this point. I would say Georgia 1, Michigan 2, TCU 3, Ohio State 4. And God, I really don't want to put Ohio State in the college football playoff because in theory, you shouldn't be able to lose by 22 at home in your biggest game of the year and still get in. But you should be mad at teams like Clemson and Tennessee for losing when they shouldn't have. At some point, every other team has 2 losses. At some point, you get in by default, and I think that's what's going to happen with Ohio State. But they shouldn't be in over TCU. They shouldn't get rewarded for sitting at home on Championship Saturday as in TCU because they had to play an extra game. They lose. They should be rewarded for getting to their conference championship game over Ohio State.
Booner?
Yeah, I have the same 4 as Sam. I have Georgia 1, Michigan 2, TCU still at 3 and Ohio State 4. I'm with Sam on the fact that TCU went and played their conference game while Ohio State sat at home and they watched it just like all of us. And you shouldn't be rewarded, one, for that. They're going to get in the playoffs, so they are getting rewarded. But when you do really, if you want to break it down and look at it deeper, they both have 1 loss. Whose loss is worse? Ohio State's loss to me is way worse at home, and you lose by 20. Yes, Michigan is the number 2 team in the country, but you lost by 20 at home when TCU, they had the ball at the 1-yard line to score a touchdown basically to almost win the game in a conference championship game. You can't take away anything from that TCU
So let's go
team.
back to the roots of this committee. Their job is to tell us who they think the best teams are every week, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And up until Friday night, Alabama. Georgia was 1,
Yep.
Michigan 2, TCU 3. They were the 3rd best team in the country according to this committee. USC 4,
Yep.
Ohio State on the bubble pending anybody to lose. We understood that. Bama no shot at 6. I want to start here, guys. Not only do I think Alabama should not even be considered, I think Alabama should drop in the standings for that fact.
Oh.
I think Utah should move up into the top 7, and so does Kansas State. Because they each have wins over top 4 teams. Utah with 2 of them. Both champions should move up. They should be playing in the New York Six Bowls. That's for damn certain. I think those teams should move up. USC should fall to 6. Ohio State, even if I don't like it, they have earned the right, in my opinion, because of their regular season performance, to get 4. I think TCU, I agree with both of you. TCU stays put at 3. The committee better not fuck this up. I'm being very serious about this. You told me before the game started, those were the 4 best teams in the country. They both lost to top 12, top 13 teams. Utah, one of the better teams in the country. Kansas State proved it again. Both champions. Okay, cool. I'm not going to punish TCU for having 1 more win than Ohio State and the same amount of losses. I'm not doing it. Ohio State, you are lucky to be getting in right now. I'm going to move you up to 4. USC, you were going to fall to 6 because you got your asses kicked. Bama, you will fall to 7. I'm going to move Utah up to 5. And I'm moving Kansas State probably up to 8. That's my ranking. Those are my top 8. I'm going Michigan, Georgia, Michigan, TCU, Ohio State, Utah, Alabama. No, USC, Alabama,
K-State.
and Kansas State. That's where I'm at. Fair or not fair?
You're going to put Utah over Alabama.
Yes, what have Alabama done? They have 2 losses. Georgia has been manhandling the same LSU team that beat Alabama. And last I checked, as much as I don't like the loss for TCU, they have more wins in the top 25 than Ohio State and Michigan combined. Utah have more wins in the top 25 than Alabama, Michigan, and Ohio State combined. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're Alabama. Nick Saban. Wow, prestige. My job as a committee member is to evaluate this season and this season alone. I don't care that Georgia won the Natty last year. I don't care that Michigan won the Big Ten last year. It's irrelevant. What have you done this year? This is a single season record conversation. Bama have lost twice. Yes, both on the road. But they lost to a Tennessee team that Georgia wiped the floor with. They lost to a LSU team that Georgia is wiping the floor with. They don't get credit because they're Alabama and it's Nick Saban. That's where I'm at, Flat.
I mean, but they went on the road at Tennessee, at LSU, and barely lost. I'm not saying that you should get moral victories or anything. I'm just saying if you're splitting hairs between them and Utah, Utah has 3 losses. Utah lost in the opening game at a terrible Florida team. And then you talk about K-State being in the top 10. Kansas State lost to Tulane this season. They're a 3-loss team. I would argue they have no business calling themselves Big 12 champions because they shouldn't even be there. There shouldn't be a championship game when they have that much worse of. I mean, they would have 2 conference losses, and TCU, even with the conference.
K-State going into today,
yes.
Right? 10. They were ranked 10th with 9 wins. 3 losses,
I think that's kind of crazy.
but they were 10. And they were ahead of Utah, Washington, Florida State, LSU, Oregon State, Oregon. They earned their place in the top 10. And so did Utah. So, yeah, I have no problem moving them up 5 spots. And in reality, I'm actually a little bit ahead of myself, if I'm honest with you guys, because Clemson is playing. And if they win, they deserve to move into that top 6 conversation over even a Kansas State, ACC champions, an 11-win. I would put them up ahead of Kansas State and Utah. But, you know, right now, that's where I'm at, boys.
I would have to kind of agree with the point of K-State just beat a college football playoff team. Obviously, it was in overtime. They struggled, but they beat them pretty well. And if you look at earlier in the year, too, they were up, 38-10 on them and lost 35-10. Like, this K-State team isn't a bad team. I don't mind if they jump like Penn State, Tennessee, if they jump some of these teams for winning their conference championship. Because, you know, like, if we're going to sit there and take USC out because they lost theirs, if a team's going to win theirs, you have to do the same thing on the other side and move them up and reward a team that does that. Bama's just getting
my job as a committee member is to reward those that win.
Yep.
Clemson, if they win, should be bumped up. Utah won, they should move up. They beat the number 4 team in the country. Kansas, ranked 10th, just beat the number 3 team in the country that I voted in as number 3. I can't be a hypocrite. That's why I think Alabama have no business moving up. They should only move down, in my opinion, based on if Clemson wins. And obviously we have our two champions right now with Kansas State and TCU. So as a committee member, that's where I'm at. I'm not rewarding you. And the only reason Ohio State is getting in is because USC got their asses handed to them. And USC needed that win. Because now they have 2 losses, in Ohio State, I'm sorry, they only have 1 loss. And to Ohio State's defense, they lost to the second best team in the country. They lost to a Michigan team we expect to play Georgia in the championship game. And they lost to a team that if the line opened up today, Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan would be 3.5-point favorites.
Sure.
Against TCU, who knows how many point favorites Michigan would be. But I think we're all right today, at least with the 4.
Sure.
Michigan, Michigan versus TCU, 2-3.
Yeah.
1-4, Georgia, Ohio State. Let's move on a bit. Back to the game. J.J. McCarthy, right? The pillar. Caden McNamara transfers to Iowa. I didn't like it for professional reasons, not so much that it's not a good fit for him, but if you want to be an NFL quarterback, and maybe he doesn't, I don't know. But if that's what you want to be, Iowa to me just doesn't seem like the right move, but hey, whatever. I'm not his advisor. Regardless, J.J. McCarthy, guys. We've talked about him all year. Lobbied for him all last season, lobbied for him in the offseason. He finally earns the job early on in the year. Michigan don't miss a beat. They go undefeated, 12-0, something even last year they didn't do. They beat Michigan State, something they didn't do last year. They beat Ohio State in the horseshoe, something they haven't done in 22 years. This team under Jim Harbaugh and J.J. McCarthy are just doing everything you didn't think they would do. What's the expectation from J.J. today? Flano, I want to start with you. And I'm not talking yards, touch. Your expectation for this quarterback in the Big Ten championship game?
I would say to kind of carry on what he did last week. When he has a big play to make, I want to see him make it. I don't care if it's an easy throw, a difficult throw, he has to make it, because the passing game for most of the season, especially on the deep balls, has looked a little bit broken, just fundamentally. And I don't even know if that's completely fixed right now. I would suspect it's not. I also want to see him play mistake-free football, obviously, which he has done this whole entire season. 17-2 touchdown to interception ratio is elite. I know J.J. McCarthy in elite and elite in the same sentence is going to make a lot of people mad, but that is an elite touchdown to interception ratio. I also want to see him make some plays with his legs, because without Blake Corum, I feel like Blake Corum throughout most of the season was a bit of an offensive safety net. Obviously a great player, but definitely a safety net kind of player. But if it's just him and Donovan Edwards basically carrying the ball, sprinkling in C.J. Stokes, I think J.J. McCarthy is going to have to get more involved. You don't have that horse in the backfield.
I don't mean to look ahead, okay? Yes. I don't want to undermine Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
But if there was ever a game I don't want to say open it up. I hate using that word. But if there was ever a game to say, let's see how we do with this type of offense. Let's run the ball effectively. But you saw what they did against Ohio State. They came out on first down and were throwing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State really committed to stopping the run. Michigan were like, yeah, we're going to throw it. Tough luck. I kind of want to see that same mindset against Purdue. I want to see this quarterback continue to perform how I know he can perform. And I think Michigan handled Purdue pretty easily. Am I wrong? No?
No, yeah, I think you're 100% right. And I think with JJ is we talked about it a little before the show, but I want to see I just want to see him put together from the start, a game from the start all the way to the end. I want to see him be able to make, we've seen him make these deep passes versus Ohio State now. I don't want to see him overthrow some of these 10 or 15-yard plays that we've seen him just throw a bullet at his receivers and it go just a foot over where they can catch it. That's happened. I feel like that happens multiple times a game in the first half, and it's so hard for Michigan to get into a rhythm until the second half. So I want to see JJ get more consistent with that, and I just want to see a full game out of him. Like, we saw the whole second half last week, and Sam, you and I talked about it before the show, is just something with Michigan in their first half. We just I feel like we've talked about it for weeks now. I just want to see JJ lead this team to a full game, and I want to see him do it tonight before we have to go to the college football playoffs and play a Georgia or play an Ohio State or a TCU.
Yeah, and you know what's funny too, Booner, and I think we might just get a kick out of this in sort of a morbid sort of way. Michigan has a chance, literally, to win a Big Ten championship and play 0 good first halves of football.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Nebraska was kind of a good first half, but that's just been a problem for them to sort of get it going, get on an opponent, and don't let up. It seems like a lot of times they take 7-0 leads, and then the next couple drives are sort of punt. the opponent gets a field goal, and at halftime it's like 13-10. That just seems like it happens every week with Michigan. I would like to see them, and I know I keep asking for it, and it never happens, play a good first half of football, dominate Purdue from the beginning. Purdue has not faced a team like Michigan. They have not faced Michigan. I want Purdue to line up against Michigan, get smacked in the mouth, and realize, like, oh, shit, we're playing Michigan. We're not playing one of those other teams that we've been playing all year, sort of an easy schedule in the Big Ten West. I want Michigan to just overwhelm them physically and just dominate them from start to finish. But I also think that could bode poorly for maybe opening up the offense with J.J. McCarthy, because if we know one thing about Jim Harbaugh, he wants to dominate on the ground. And I think against Purdue, they can, and they should, and they will. We'll just have to see if Jim Harbaugh is content with just winning the game, winning the way he wants to win, or if they do open it up a little bit. I think it'd be more advantageous for them to open it up, but I don't know. I haven't seen it a whole lot this year.
I do have a stat for you here. I just looked it up real quick.
Okay.
First half of the last 3 games, Michigan is only averaging 13 points per game in the first half, which it doesn't have it in order here, but it looks like it's clearly outside of the top 50 in the country, maybe top 60 outside, which to me is terrible. A team that's supposed to be the best team in the country or the second best team in the country, your last 3 games, and overall in the year, they're 20th with like 18 points per game in the first half or something like that.
Yeah, in those 3 games, they don't include being tied at Indiana at halftime.
Yep.
They don't include losing at halftime to Penn State, or where they were up by 2 against Penn State, where they had 18 first downs and Penn State had 1. It's the first halves have just been a problem for Michigan. It hasn't hurt them yet, and I don't think anything can really hurt them against Purdue. They obviously should win this game, but wouldn't you like to see it in the Big Ten championship game on a crazy college football championship Saturday,
Yep.
Friday night / Saturday, to just dominate them from start to finish?
I'm just going to keep going back to it. This game, to me, is just putting me in a spot to where I want to leave this game so confident these next 28 days before the college football playoffs, and that is what I want to see for a full game, the first half. I don't want to see that, like you said, versus Indiana, they struggled in the first half, and you're sitting there, you're sweating the game out. I want to be able to go into the first half today and be up 28-3 and be able to say, okay, we know we can do that. Because versus Georgia, you're not going to be able to spot a team 2 touchdowns and still win. Or you're not going to be able to you could be tied with them and be in a game, but if you play like you do versus Indiana in the first half, you're going to be down 4 touchdowns versus Georgia. So you have to get that under control, I think, now, and especially now with Blake Corum out. Like that, you have to get that feel down in a game like today to prepare you for a month down the line.
Fair enough. Well, look, we've talked a lot about Michigan. Expected to win big, 16.5-point favorites. Let's talk about Jesse Minter in this defense. And I believe that is almost a touchdown for LSU. No, it is not close. But regardless, Jesse Minter in this defense, I thought last year was your best defensive performance since maybe 97, 2006 maybe.
Yeah.
For the program, unbelievable. Sure. To go from Don Brown and get the instant reward was amazing. Somehow, some way, with, I don't want to say less talent, but we do know that Aiden Hutchinson, Dax Hill, David Ojabo, that hurts. I know Ojabo went in the second round, but those were 3 first-round picks, essentially, in my book. Yeah. Ojabo towards Achilles, sure. So that ruined his draft stock. But regardless, your defense is somehow better?
Yeah.
Deeper? Faster? Chris Jenkins, Mike Morris. Sanistrell has been unbelievable at nickel.
A revelation.
I mean, guys, what are we looking at here? This defense has, I can't believe I'm saying this, that I questioned their defense going into the year. Yes, they kept the same program, the same schemes and everything, but my God, Jesse Minter took what McDonald left off last year and ran with it.
Yep. Jesse Minter, to me, is the coordinator of the year in all of college football. I mean, they were the #1 scoring defense for a lot of the season. They kind of went back and forth with Georgia. #1 rushing defense for most of the year. I think they're still the #1 rushing defense. They held that high-powered Ohio State offense, which is an elite offense, to 23 points. And I know going into that game, if you would have said if you were Michigan and you would have held Ohio State to 23 points, you'd be feeling pretty good. And that's what they did, just all season. And then you see a guy like Mike Morris develop into that star edge rusher that I thought they would need. but they're also so deep. Like you mentioned, Chris Jacobs, Ayabiyoki, Braden Graham. I mean, like guys who I think moving forward can be, I don't know about stars, but like NFL players. Mozzie Smith in the secondary, Mike Sanderstill. How the hell was that guy ever a wide receiver? He goes to defense to be like kind of the nickel corner. He's an NFL player. He was one of the best defensive backs in the Big Ten, in my opinion. Just a phenomenal job by Jesse Minter. And hey, now we can say, at least on defense, at Michigan, we reload. We lose Aiden Hutchinson, David Ojabo, and Dax Hill, and we have a better defense. That's kind of like, you can puff your chest out about that.
Well, I mean, Michigan have always been pretty solid in terms of putting out NFL talent.
Sure.
Now, did they deliver up to their college expectations? Maybe not.
Rashawn Gary.
But they turn out to be really good pros. Why? This is why people love drafting Alabama players. They're so well coached. Mm-hmm. And I could say the same about Michigan players. Under Jim Harbaugh, especially on defense, you've seen them always be very well coached. The problem Michigan have always had is the quarterback. You can never figure out who the quarterback would be. And to Cade McNamara's credit, last year gave you a very stable 1-2-3, this is what we can do with him offense. And it worked. And your defense was good enough to win a Big Ten and finally overcome your demon with Ohio State. Now this year, you've got the talent. You've got the Heisman back. You've got Donovan Edwards. You've got Rodney Bell. A lot of weapons here. And you saw a different Michigan this year. And you saw a Michigan that through adversity would find ways to win, and they didn't really miss a beat. So this Michigan football team I've been so impressed all season with. And my question for you, Booner, is we touched on the defense and how good it's been. Who's the X-Factor player, not just for today, but for the college football playoff on defense? Is it still Mike Morris?
Yeah, after Ohio State, I would say, that defense, they held it down with Mike Morris. Not, I don't even know if I saw him on the field last Saturday, but I would say getting Mike Morris back is kind of that captain in the heart of that defense there. I think that changes a lot as well. And we saw last week with Ohio State how good this defense was the last couple weeks, even without him. And then you add him back in now, going into tonight for the Big Ten Championship, to the college football playoffs, versus whoever you have there. I think it just he is the heart of this defense, and it elevates that defense that much more. Like if you look at the stats here, just in the country, they're third in the country with points per game allowed, and they're second in the country for yards a game allowed. Like that is it's the best, if not the second best defense in the whole country. And you add in, the last 2 weeks you didn't have Mike Morris, your best defender, and you add him back to it. I think it elevates this defense to that much more. And then just like you just said, Adam, with that offense, with J.J. McCarthy, the way that they play, if you add a defense to that, I think it's a scary team.
All right, let's get controversial. Mozzie Smith.
Oof.
Thoughts? I don't like it. I think it's insanely disrespectful. I don't know what the Washtenaw legal prosecutor has in his mind. To me, it's a joke. Not because Mozzie Smith doesn't have rights. Innocent until proven guilty. Everything that's happened is well within the law. I have no problem with that. What I have a problem with is for 7 weeks we've been on a witch hunt for 8 Michigan State players, 7 of which have been absolved essentially, and it's only one who swung a helmet at another individual. Not right. Absolutely deserves to be prosecuted to whatever extent they want to see that through with. But excuse me, you've kept this under wraps for all this time. It to me is, I don't think it's the Michigan blue wall or any of that crap. I don't buy into that. Again, I think legally Mozzie Smith has been within his rights all the time. I just think the optics of it, one, is horrible, and 2, they've done a piss poor job. The fact that this hasn't been released while there has been Tunnelgate and we need to pursue to the fullest extent of these Michigan State players, unacceptable. Yet you've been allowing a kid to leave the state with pending charges. Guys, whoa, help me? Really? I'm coming from an outsider point of view. I don't care for Michigan State or Michigan in this matter, really. I'm just asking, where's the common sense here?
Wouldn't it have been nice if right when it happened, maybe they suspended Mozzie Smith for the Indiana game? That would have been cool, because I think Michigan could have beat Indiana without Mozzie Smith. When you look at what happened, it's obviously not good when you see the name felony attached to someone. That's not good. But it was, to me, it was more of a honest mistake. He obviously shouldn't have done it. And I think if they would have kind of got out in front of this, sat Mazi Smith for a game, and then let more of the facts come out, I think this is all buried and done. Now it's a distraction right before the Big Ten Championship
how
game.
We got here, because I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I agree.
I don't. It's just how long it's been for now it to come out now.
Yeah.
Why didn't it just come out? Mazi made a mistake. Here's a mistake he made. We're suspending him for a quarter. We're suspending him for a half. If you want to suspend him for a game, I don't care.
The Indiana game.
It was not necessary at all. And it would have been a done deal. And we would have continued on and no issues. But of course, it's kept under wraps. The prosecutor's office is totally botching this, and Booner.
Yeah. I mean,
I just don't like it.
The way it was handled was it was interesting. And like you said, the Washtenaw, the counting, all of that stuff, the way the system that they're going through, I think that's something to where, like Sam said, as soon as it comes into the office, in Jim Harbaugh's office or the AD's office, that's something that you just put out there, say, hey, this is going on. Even if we don't know what the whole story is of what happened.
Suck
Did you
my
hit
dick.
that?
Suck my dick.
Did he get the 2 yards?
He got more
Suck
than
it.
that. It
Let's
looks
go.
like.
Suck it. Suck it.
There we
Brock
go.
Bowers, holy hell, that was a 30-yard catch.
And
My God, I am a free man.
is that it
I
for
was
this
having
game?
a heart attack. That's it for the game.
On to
I'm done.
Michigan?
I won this game's parlay. I'm
Hell
done.
yeah.
Brock Bowers, anytime touchdown, over on the receiving yards, Georgia money line, that has hit. I parlayed it with my Michigan bet, so I'm good till 8 o'clock. Whew. Having said that, back to Mazi Smith. I
Yeah.
want to clarify two things. Number one, what he did was stupid.
Sure.
Okay? He deserves all the charges coming his way. What's pissing me off is that it's swept under the rug all this time when it didn't need to be. Hey, we have a student who's also a player. This player also made a very stupid mistake. A very irresponsible mistake, by the way. Very irresponsible. And he knew the law, too. He made the mistake. He kept the gun. Well, regardless, it's a mistake. He deserves to be prosecuted for it, yada, yada, yada. But why the hush-hush? We're not going to release this just yet. You could have released it and been done with over 5-6 weeks ago. This could have been a non-story, and now it is a story. And I think it's a stupid story. And I think it's been handled poorly by Michigan and the Washtenaw County. Pathetic. And I don't know, again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the exact litigation and everything that goes on and how long it takes to prosecute somebody and file everything. I don't. I've heard conflicting stories on how long it should take. I don't care. I just think it's pretty hypocritical that we are crying witch hunt over Tunnelgate, and at the same time, I want to say intentionally putting something under the rug, but it's pretty clear, you know what, we're not interested in making this public news. We'll figure it out when we have to. Yeah. That to me is just grossly irresponsible.
That's just where I think that was the wrong part of it all. I don't know the charges and whether, if he did something wrong, what he did, how it all went down. It's just, hey, just get out in front of it. As an athletic department, as a coach, just, hey, this is happening with one of our guys, especially like a guy like Mazi Smith. Like, it's going to come out eventually. Why are you going to let it just sit there for a month or longer, and then now it's a Big Ten Championship week, and we have to talk about this? It was done wrong. Just come out, say it, get it out of the way.
I don't think it's that big of a
on.
deal. Had they come out 7 weeks ago and said, hey, Mazi Smith made this mistake, what am I going to witch hunt and kill the kid? No. Everybody makes mistakes. No problem, kid. I'm not even mad at the kid.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a non-story for me. It's just the timing of it is so stupid, but enough of the Mazi stuff. Let's move on a little bit. Right. College football-ish related. Former Alabama wide receiver Jameson Williams activated today. Ooh. Lions play tomorrow. We'll get back to the Purdue-Michigan game and give our final thoughts coming up in just a bit, but Jameson Williams back, officially. We saw the burner he was in college. What he did to Georgia in that SEC championship game. This kid's got special written all over him. I want to start with you, Flannel. Your thoughts on the kid. His production day one, apparently, quote, he's wowed the room over the last 3 days in practice.
Well, Jameson Williams, in my opinion, was the single most explosive college football player I've ever seen last year. He was robbed of a Biletnikoff Award by Jordan Addison, but that's not the point. Jameson Williams gives this offense something that it just has never had. And I understand we haven't seen him play yet. It's all speculation, but it's part of Brad Holmes' wizardry. I don't think any of us thought there was any chance that we were going to get him, but he makes a trade, obviously with Jameson Williams being hurt. We pick up that Ferrari that we've been keeping in the garage. I know that the Lions already have had a pretty good offense this year. I think they're 8th in scoring. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's obviously one of the best possession receivers in the NFL, in my opinion, already. But he also averages about 10.5 yards per catch for his career. What Jameson Williams can provide you is that deep threat, is that guy who can take a slant or a crossing route and go to the house if there's any space whatsoever. And also what he can do for the rest of the receivers. I've already said that Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of the best possession, kind of short and intermediate route receivers in the NFL. But what if he gets to work with more space? Jameson Williams is not just going to be able to walk right out on that field and have defensive backs and defensive coordinators not feel like they have to game plan for him or account for him. They don't want to be burned by Jameson Williams. They saw what he did in college. They see just sort of the type of prospect that he is. So if I was a little bit on the fence of who I would pick to win this game, the Lions versus Jaguars tomorrow, if Jameson Williams is playing, and by all accounts he is, I'm absolutely unequivocally going with the Detroit Lions, and I expect to see dividends, whether it's for him or everyone else around him, from snap one.
I'm with you. I'm excited. It's a big deal, but let's wrap this up. Michigan, Purdue, 16.5-point favorites. Start with you, Booner. Give me a score line, give me the prediction, and give me the player that's going to have the biggest impact.
Score line, I think my prediction today is I think Michigan, and I told you guys right before we started, I responsibly put the rest of my gambling funds on Michigan team total over 34.5. I think they have a big day today. We saw last year what they have 40-plus points in the Big Ten championship game. I like 45 to 10 today.
Really? Defense stifles Purdue?
I do think so. I think this defense, and just like we just talked about a couple minutes ago, I think this is one of, if not the best defense in the country. I did just see here, too, and I don't know if we already mentioned it, but Mike Morris is in street clothes right now, so he's officially, I'm guessing, out. He was
smart move.
Yeah, he's in street clothes right now. He has his jersey on, just watching warm-ups.
I would say smart move. Sit him. You're in the college football playoff already. Get him healthy.
So I think they blow them out today. I think it's a big game for Michigan. I think they score a ton. I think they kind of build off what they did versus Ohio State. They throw the ball a ton. Hopefully today with JJ, Donovan Edwards has a big game. That is my key player today is Donovan Edwards. I want to see him at that RB1 spot put up the numbers he did last week versus Ohio State. Show us that you can do that for a full game going into the college football playoffs and not just the 3 or 4 plays that he broke off versus Ohio State. Do that today heading into the college football playoffs. Gain the confidence. Go into these last 28 days with the confidence that you are the best team in the country and go win a national championship.
I love it, Flannel.
I'm going to go with Michigan 45, Purdue 20. I think Purdue's going to be able to put up a few points. They might hit a few plays with their passing offense because that is the one thing that, at least in spurts, they are good at, they are capable of. They have Charlie Jones at a wide receiver, Payne Durham, the tight end. Aiden O'Connell, at least in spurts, can look good. But like I say this almost every week, I don't think that Purdue's defense should be able to get one stop against Michigan. I mean, honestly, in every single way, Michigan should overwhelm Purdue. I think that Donovan Edwards has a big game. I don't think we should be too worried about him because even though Blake Corum was a worthy Heisman Trophy contender, in my opinion, Donovan Edwards, albeit he's not quite the every down back Blake Corum is, I think Donovan Edwards is the better running back, the more explosive running back, the more complete running back, probably the best running back as a prospect in the Big Ten. And if they can get that going with Donovan Edwards, look for J.J. McCarthy to make a few plays with his arm, with his legs, and just have it all open up and for the offense to roll.
I wish FanDuel would let me bet J.J. McCarthy over 55.5 rushing yards because I think he's going to bust
55.
one today. I do. Give me Donovan Edwards and J.J. McCarthy, the future of this program for the next 2 years, to just have a day. Donovan Edwards over 150 rushing yards guaranteed. Give me J.J. McCarthy to not only throw for 200 yards, but rush damn near for 100. I think you're going to see one of his better performances. Give me Michigan to win big 52-24. Michigan on a big win heading into the college football playoff. Them and Georgia, the two best teams in the country. I think we all agree. Georgia 1, Michigan 2, TCU 3, Ohio State 4. I hope the committee gets it right and keeps TCU. I don't think Ohio State deserves to jump 2 spots. Having said that, can't thank you enough, Flannel. Can't thank you enough, Booner, for joining me tonight. Appreciate it like hell. Thank you guys so much to all you Michigan fans. Good luck tonight. Wish you nothing but the best. Enjoy the game, all of you. For myself, Adham Beydoun, Flannel, Sam, Booner, thank you so much. We're out. Take care. Have a great rest of your night. We'll see you guys pretty